We look like we're news anchors.
Hey guys, we're coming back at you with a bookish date follow-up.
What we're going to be doing today is going over each book, just giving you our initial thoughts and impressions and a short review or a lasting impression along with a star rating at the end.
So the first book that I finished was Joanna Gaines' second cookbook. I would give it probably 3 stars. I mean, to be honest with you, I am a fan of an easy cooking dish, and she was over here hand making biscuits. That's not really on my level.
The first book that I read this year was Thunderhead. It's the second book in the Arc of the Scythe trilogy, and this book expanded on the world and the foundation along with the themes laid in the first. We got to really dive a lot deeper into the characters. Everything crumbles. It set up book 3 so nicely, and it makes me really excited, so I would give that one 3 stars.
The next one I read was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and I think I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads.
You totally did. I read Ugly Love 2 or 3 months before you?
Longer.
The male protagonist, Miles is extremely unhealthy. Do not go for a guy like Miles. I feel like his behavior was inexcusable. Colleen Hoover, I mean, a lot of people absolutely love and adore her work, and I can understand why, but it's just not my cup of tea. The second book that I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. For those of you that don't know, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Without going into spoiler territory here, there's a series of trials that occur about 3/4 of the way through the book, where the female love interest has to prove herself in order to win the freedom of the male love interest. It was just really dark and graphic and took a turn that I wasn't really happy with. So I'm gonna give it 3 stars because the first 3/4 of the book were super strong, but I'm not gonna be continuing the series. God, I'm just coming out here with the hot takes right away.
The next book I read was The Complete Cookbook for Teens. 120 plus recipes to level up your kitchen game. This was much more on my level. I gave it 4 stars. I read it one day randomly while I was at the library waiting for one of my tutoring kids to show up.
Small tidbit, we want to do more cooking content here on the channel, so if you're excited for Meg's Kitchen, you have that to look forward to. The next one that I read was Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. So, if you're a reader, you've probably heard about this one before. I feel ever since it came out in 2016, I believe it's been on everybody's shelves. And this, for me, I'm just going to spoil it, it's a 5 out of 5. I feel after having read this book, I have a more deep, profound sense of what it truly means to be human and how fortunate I am to live in this day and age. I guess that wasn't the most interesting review. But anyway, 5 out of 5 stars. If you're interested in any kind of life or social science, then I really do insist that you read this. I think you'll come out a better person.
The next book I read was Karachi at Home, How to Organize Your Space and Achieve Your Ideal Life by Marie Kondo. And I love Marie Kondo. Mm-hmm. She put me on my decluttering journey with her first book, and this book was phenomenal. 5 out of 5. I digress.
Mm-hmm. You can check out Marie Kondo on Netflix too. Doesn't she have
she has a TV show!
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Next book. Banger, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. This is the follow-up to his mega hit 12 Rules for Life. Megan and I actually went to go see Professor Peterson speak when he came to Grand Rapids, and that was just a wonderfully engaging night full of intellectual debate. And he's someone that I really look up to and aspire to be like. The advice that I got from the first book along with the second has really helped shape me into a better man, and for that I'm really grateful. This one got 4 out of 5 stars for me.
Okay, the next book I read was Minimalista, Your Step-by-Step Guide to a Better Home, Wardrobe, and Life. This is a great book, 5 out of 5. I'm kind of nice when it comes to books, I guess, I realize, but also it was just so pretty to look at. Mm-hmm. This is a coffee table book more so, I would say. My personal rating scale is a 3 is an average book that you enjoyed. You're happy that you read it. A 4 is a book that you would happily recommend to a friend or family member, and then a 5 is this book changed your life. It felt like a privilege to read. So. 5 for me is that was really, really fun to read.
Yeah, yeah, Meg definitely reads for enjoyment more, I would say, right? But that makes the act so much more fun.
Yeah.
So I
That's why
definitely
I'll be a
support you in that.
lifelong reader.
Exactly. So the next one I read was Babel by R.F. Kuang. She actually wrote the very popular trilogy called The Poppy War, which I also happen to read. Anyway, Babel is a dark academia book, and I really couldn't put this one down. It was like so engaging. It covers a lot of time over the course of the novel. And for me, this one's going to be a 4-star read. I would highly recommend this.
The next book I read was called The Latte Factor, Why You Don't Have to Be Rich to Live Rich. I actually really enjoyed this. I'm super into personal finance and being smart with your money, especially when you're young. This was actually told like a novel, which was so interesting. It was very easy to digest. I read it one day while you were studying in Starbucks.
Oh,
so
really?
It was a really easy read,
Cool.
Yeah, but ultimately I'd probably give this one 4 stars.
Oh, so the next book that I read was The Slow Regard of Silent Things. This is a novella that was released by Patrick Rothfuss, and had it not been any shorter, I would have DNF'd it. I love the King Killer Chronicle. I'm a massive fan. I've reread both of the books, The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear, and if you know how long these books are, that's like saying something. These are more tomes than they are books. And they changed my life in like a very profound way. Like, I love the world of Tamaranth. Followed Ari, who is like favorite character of the fandom. I was just extremely disinterested. I mean, there was no real plot aside from like following her along on her journey, on her like day-to-day journey. And you know, that's all well and good, but I just didn't care. It was such a slodge, like trying to get on. That's like a 1-star read.
Yeah, during it you were like, this is so boring.
I would not recommend.
Okay, the next book I read was Preppy Kitchen by John Cannell. Follow him on YouTube.
Nice.
I have to say, his videos are much easier than his cookbook was. And all over his cookbook, it's like, you can do this too. No, you cannot. No. Yeah. So, boo for me, 3 stars.
The next book I read was called The Breakthrough Code, a story about living a life without limits. This was actually gifted to me by Megan's father, Roy. And I'm happy that the book turned out to be a good one, because even if it had been terrible, I would have finished it. So that,
and lied.
Yeah. So that he and I like could have conversed about it. Fortunately, it gave a lot of practical life advice that I feel like any young person, well, anyone of any age really can like use to like further themselves in life. This one's going to be a 3-star read for me.
The next book I read was by Alex Salza, and it was Declutter Like a Mother. And I would actually recommend this to anyone who's a mom. I skipped over the actual kid parts because I don't have any kids' faces. Her voice in the book felt very similar to the way that I myself write, which is with like a little bit of sarcasm, funny, like upbeat.
Yeah, Megan's writing is very much like someone was using like speech to text.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, it's as if she's giving a speech to you. It's
casual.
Extremely conversational.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I really love it. Especially since I love Meg's person.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm like between 3 and 4 stars. I would say 3.5 stars. I will say, when I've been reading all of these declutter minimalism books, I'm like 2 years deep into this. And I feel like I'm rereading the same content over and over in different ways.
It furthers like the depth of understanding, applying it in different contexts.
Yeah.
But some of the information can definitely seem recycled. So the last book that I read this year was Never Finished by David Goggins. It really pales in comparison to Can't Hurt Me. Obviously, he's a tremendously inspiring individual. I don't think that I would have ran my marathon or my ultra had I never encountered him and heard his voice and his message. But this one really didn't land for me. I gave it 3 stars. The one redeeming thing that I will add is that he shares so much more about what he and his mom went through. In the audiobook, his mother comes on and shares her side of things. Wow. And that was hands down my favorite part of the whole thing.
Really cool. Okay, to finish off, I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and this is hilarious. My cousin actually said, Meg, has anyone informed Shane about this book that you're reading? And
they did not.
No, they did not. I have to say, like, I feel weird even talking about it, because it just, a lot of the things that it discusses does not really align with my beliefs or morals or who I am as a person at all. I told Shane, like, I don't agree with any of it, but it was a literary masterpiece, is what I'm trying to say. So I gave it 5 stars, and I will be reading more of Taylor Jenkins Reid.
So that's our January reading wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe got some solid recommendations out of it. We got a lot more bookish content on the way, including like one like announcement and a cool thing that we want to do with Goodreads. So anyways, We'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
Bye.